Hello, this is Catherine, and I'm here today to talk about Unpacking Standards for Teach Now, Module 6, Unit 1, Activity 1. So for this activity, I chose to look at the Common Core Standard for 4th grade, and it's an English Language Arts writing standard, and it is write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective technique, descriptive details, and clear event sequences. Now, I chose this Common Core state standard because it is something that in the class I currently work in that I think will be in our upcoming unit, in February, which is around the time I'll be starting my clinical practice. So I thought it was relevant and that it would be interesting to unpack a standard that I know I would be working with in the near future. I also really like narrative writing, and I like how students have the opportunity to be creative, so I thought that would be fun to look at. Under this standard, there are some substandards. So the W4.3a is to orient the reader by establishing a situation and introducing a narrator and or characters, organize an event sequence that unfolds naturally. 4.3.b is use dialogue and description to develop experiences and events or show the responses of characters to situations. C is use a variety of transitional words and phrases to manage the sequence of events. D is use concrete words and phrases and sensory details to convey experiences and events precisely. And lastly, E is provide a conclusion that follows from the narrated experiences or events. So, for the main activity, which is to unpack a standard, I chose to look at a couple of the substandards, but first, the main standard, which is write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective technique, descriptive details, and clear event sequences. In this standard, I think that the concepts or the main idea, is underlined. It says effective technique, descriptive details, and clear event sequences. So that's the main concept that students have to master or should master. And what they need to do with it is be able to use them. So students need to be able to use effective techniques, use descriptive details, and use clear event sequences. And this is all within the context of writing narratives. Students need to be able to use effective technique while writing narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events. Use descriptive details, use clear event sequences. Here, the verb is definitely use. So then the first substandard, here again, the verb is circled, it's use. And then the concepts, or the what, I have underlined a variety of transitional words and phrases. And then the context is that students need to be able to use this skill to manage the sequence of events. So students can use a variety of transitional words to manage the sequence of events, and students can use a variety of transitional phrases to manage the sequence of events. And then the next substandard was use concrete words and phrases and sensory details to convey experiences and events precisely. So here again, we have that verb use within the context of conveying experiences and events precisely, and students need to be able to use concrete words and phrases and sensory details. So the main ideas and skills coming from this standard and its substandards are that students are able to effectively use elements of writing within the context of narrative writing. So students can use dialogue and description. Students can use a variety of transitional words and phrases. Students can use concrete words and phrases and sensory details. And students can use effective technique, descriptive details, and clear event sequences, and it's all within the context of narrative writing. Also within this standard, I think that I would want students to be using some 21st century skills. They'd need to be creative in order to successfully master this standard. Being able to be creative and make interesting dialogue and description, to think of not only concrete words and phrases, but to combine those and use sensory details, things like, what someone might describing, so what someone might see or touch or taste or hear or smell in their story is requires creativity. And I also think in this unit I would have students, or give students, the option to work collaboratively, so they might complete some of the activities or assignments with a partner. And then, speaking of sample activities, what the context for this standard would be for me in my classroom and my students would be in a unit on digital citizenship. In the classroom that I work in now, the students are kind of clueless about what it means to be a digital citizen. They don't understand that things that they do online are around forever and will always be attached to, to them as a student and to them as a person. So I know that coming up in February, when I do my clinical practice, that I'd like to do a unit on digital citizenship. So then, after some research, I found this lesson by a teacher named Sam Payne, and his unit was called Super Digital Citizen, and it was really neat. They had class discussions on what it means to be a digital citizen, to be a safe, respectful, and responsible digital citizen. And then what he had his students do was, on the computer, they went to a website where they were able to create their own digital superhero, and then they kind of, I don't know if he storyboarded it out, but I would have my students storyboard out a comic where the student is a character in their story as well, and this the superhero would be helping the student to make safe, respectful, and responsible choices online. So that would be the first part of one of the activities I'd have the students do. And then, to show mastery of the writing standard, which is to write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events, and the students need to be able to use effective technique, descriptive details, and clear event sequences in order to fully show mastery of this standard. I would have students take their comic that they created and develop it into a full narrative story. And then lastly, the way that I would assess student mastery of this standard would be through the comic book and the storyboard, and then that would be a chance where I could be checking in with students for formative assessments to make sure that they are understanding the content, and then the final summative assessment would be the narrative story that they would turn in. So yeah, I will actually link to the lesson by Sam Payne in the description of the video. And yeah, that is just a little bit on unpacking standards. Thank you.